Welcome. What can I do for you? The enchanted ring called Moon and Star, or One Clan Under Moon and Star, as the Ashlanders call it, was forged for the hero Nerevar by one of the Dwemer sorcerer priest Kagranak's. How wonderful! Welcome, Outlander. How wonderful! Welcome. What can I do for you? What do you ask of me, Archmagister? When the Dunmer followed Veloth to Morrowind, they were many warring clans with no law or leader in common. One Dunmer warlord, Nerevar, had the ambition to rule all the Dunmer. In that time, House Dwemer were great enchanters, so Nerevar went in secret to a Dwemer smith and asked for an enchanted ring that would help him. The ring gave its wearer great powers of persuasion. For safety, it was enchanted to instantly kill anyone who wore it except Nerevar. The ring was called Moon and Star, and it helped Nerevar unite the various clans into the First Council. Later, however, disputes over religion divided the council, with House Dwemer and House Dagoth on one side and all the other houses on the other. Dumak and Dagoth invited Orc and Nord clans as allies and held northwest Morrowind, while Nerevar mustered the other houses and nomad tribes and marched to meet the Dwemer-Dagoth Westerner forces. The armies met at Red Mountain, a Dwemer stronghold. The Dwemer were defeated, and terrible sorceries were used, resulting in the utter extermination of House Dwemer, House Dagoth, and their allies. Nerevar died after the battle, and his ring was lost. But Nerevar's alliance survives in Morrowind's ruling political institution, the Grand Council.
The Temple of Two Moons dance in Torval has for many hundreds of years been the finest training ground in all Tamriel for warriors of foot and fist. The masters teach students of all ages from all parts of the Empire the most ancient techniques and the most modern variations, and many a former pupil has graduated to great fame. I myself trained there, and as a young child I remember asking my first master, Zoaraim, which former student he felt had best learned the lessons of the temple. I was not a teacher when I met this man, but a student myself, he said, smiling in reminiscence, his great wrinkled face becoming even more like the withered fruit of the bathroom tree. "This was long ago, before your parents were born." For many years I had trained at the temple, rising to study in more difficult and demanding classes, taught by the wisest and most learned masters of the Two Moons dance. Gynanth, you will come to understand that the tempering of your body must attend the tempering of your mind, and there is a prescribed order of training we at the temple have designed over the years in concordance with the way of Riddlethar. I had reached the highest level, where my power and skill were such that even by supernatural, magical means few could ever best me in weaponless combat. There was a servant at the temple at the time, a Dunmer a few years older than myself and those in my class. We had never noticed him, but in passing over the years, for he would enter the training chambers quietly, clean for a few minutes' time, and leave without saying a word. Not that we would have listened if he spoke, so enraptured were we in our exercises and lessons. When our last master told some of us, myself included, that the time had come for us to leave the temple or become teachers, there was a great festival of celebration. The Main itself deigned to visit and observe our ceremony. As we were and are a temple of philosophy and combat, there were contests of debate and competitions in the temple's war arena, not only among the elite few, but open to all students. On the first day of the festival, I was examining the gladiatorial roster to see who I would fight with first, when I heard a conversation behind me, the servant speaking to the archpriest of the temple. It was the first time I heard the Dunmer's voice, and the first time I heard his name. "I understand you wish to rejoin your people's struggle in Morrowind, Taran," the archpriest was saying. "I'm sorry to hear it. You have been an institution here for many, many years, and you will be missed. If there's anything I can do for you, please name it." "Thank you for your kindness," the Dunmer replied. "I do have a request, but I fear you would be loath to grant it. Ever since I first came to the temple, I have been watching the students learn and practiced myself when my duties allowed for it. I know I am but a servant here, but I would be honored if you would allow me to compete in the war arena." I stifled back my gasp at the mayor's impertinence to even suggest that he would be worthy to fight with those of us who had trained so hard. To my surprise, the archpriest agreed, adding the name Taran Omathan to the roster at the beginner's level. I was eager to whisper the news to my fellow elite students, but my first bout was scheduled to begin in a few minutes' time. I fought 18 competitions in a row, besting all. The crowd gathered in the arena knew of my prowess and gave polite, unsurprised applause at the end of each fight. As much as I focused on my own battles, I could not help noticing that other competitions were receiving more and more attention in the arena. The spectators whispered among themselves, and more began drifting away to see something that was evidently more spectacular and unusual than my unbroken string of victories. One of the most important lessons we teach from the Two Moons dance is the lesson of rejecting one's vanity. I understood then the importance of achieving a personal synchronicity with one's body and mind, of rebuffing outside influences of no importance, but I admit I had not accepted the lesson in my heart. I knew I was good, but my pride was hurt. It came down to a contest of champions, and I was one of the two. When I saw who the other fighter would be, my mood turned from one of wounded dignity to complete disbelief. My adversary was the servant, Taran. It must be a joke, or some final philosophical test, I reasoned. Then I looked into the crowd and saw anticipation of a great battle to come in every eye. We gave one another the sign of respect, I stiffly and he with great elegance and modesty. The fight began. Initially, I sought to end it quickly, still thinking that he was unworthy to be cleaning the arena, let alone fighting in it. In retrospect, I was being illogical, as I must have known he had bested as many students as I to had reached that final level. He offered simple counterblows to my attacks and responded in kind. His style was expansive, encompassing sophisticated arcane footplay one moment and simple jabs and kicks the next. I tried assailments intended to dazzle, but his face never showed either fear or contempt of my abilities. The fight lasted for a long time. I don't recall when I realized I was destined to lose, but when it ended, I was not surprised with the outcome. With a sense of unusual and true modesty, I bowed to him. But I could not resist asking him as we left the arena to the sound of thunderous applause how he had so secretly grown to become a master. "I never had a choice to rise in the temple," Taran replied. "Every day I cleaned the training chambers of the elite classes and then the beginners. So you see, I never had the misfortune to forget those early mistakes, lessons and techniques while observing and learning the ways of the masters." He left Torval early the next morning to return to his homeland, and I never saw him again, though I've heard people saw that he's become a priest and a teacher. I became a teacher as well, for children just beginning their training in the 2 moons, as well as the elite. And I make certain to bring my best pupils to see how the unlearned fight, so that they might never forget.
Welcome. What can I do for you? You should consult the recent edition of the Brown Book of Great House Telvanni. It lists the current Telvanni councillors and their residences. Let me mark the locations of the councillors' towers on your map. Tel Arun, Tel Vos, Tel Mora, Tel Brenora, and Tel Naga is right in the center of Sadrith Mora. How wonderful. Welcome, Outlander. know where to begin. It is such an honor to meet you. Welcome. What can I do for you?
"13. Last Seed, 3E, 411, Wayrest, High Rock. My dear Koninga, please forgive the quality of the handwriting on this note, but I have not long to live. I can only reply in detail to one part of your letter, and that is that I fear Baliasir, contrary to what you've heard, is very much real. Had he been but a figment of that caretaker's imagination, I would not be feeling life ebb from me as I write this. Lady Morling has sent for healers, but I know they won't arrive in time. I just need to explain what happened so that you'll understand, and then all my affairs in this world will be ended. The one advantage of my condition is that I must be brief, without my habitually ornamental descriptions of people and places. I know that you will appreciate that at least. It started when I came to Wayrest, and through my friend Lady Morling and her court connections was introduced to Baliasir himself. I had to proceed carefully, not wanting him to know of our designs on Azura's star, which I presumed he possessed, given to him by his servant Hadwaf Neithwyr. His function in Queen Elisana's court seemed to be decorative, like so many of her courtiers, and it was not hard to differentiate myself from the others when we began conversing on the school of mysticism. Many of the other hangers-on at the palace can speak eloquently on the subject of the magical arts, but it seemed that only he and I had deep knowledge of the craft. Many a nobleman or adventurer who aren't mages by profession learn a spell or two from the useful schools of restoration or destruction. I told Baliasir quite truthfully that I had never learned any of that. Oh, but I wish I knew some healing spells of the school of restoration now, but that I had developed some small skill in mysticism. Not enough to be a Psijic, of course, but in telekinesis, password, and spell reflection I had some amateur ability. He responded with compliments, which allowed me to segue into the topic of another spell of mysticism, the Soul Trap. I told him I was unlearned but curious about that spell, and very naturally and comfortably I was able to bring up the subject of Azura's star, the endless well of souls. Imagine how I had to hold back my excitement when he leaned in and whispered to me, "If that interests you, come to Clithic's cairn west of the city tomorrow night." I couldn't sleep at all. The only thing I could think of was how I would get the star when he showed it to me. I still knew so little about Baliasir, his past and his power, but the opportunity was too great to let pass. Still, I must admit that I held hopes that you would arrive, as you threatened you might in your letter, so I might have someone of physical strength to aid me in my adventure. I am growing weaker and weaker as I write this, so I must proceed with the basic facts. I went to the crypt the following night, and Baliasir led me through the maze of it to the repository where he kept the star. We were talking quite casually, and as you've so often said, it seemed an excellent time for an ambush. I grabbed the star and unsheathed my blade in what I felt was amazing speed. He turned to me, and I suddenly felt that I was moving like a snail. In a flash, Baliasir changed his form and became his true self, not man or Mer, but Daedra, a colossal Daedra lord who swiped back the star from my grasp and laughed at my sword as it thudded against his impenetrable hide. I knew I had been beaten, and I threw myself towards the corridor. A blue flash of energy coursed through me, flung by Baliasir's claws. At once I began to feel death. He could have smote me with 1,000 spells, but he chose the one where I could lie down and suffer and hear him laugh. At the very least, I did not give him that pleasure. Already struck, it was too late for me to cast a counterspell of mysticism, one to dispel the magicka, reflect it, or absorb it as my own. But I did still know how to teleport myself, what mystics term recall, to whatever place I'd last set a spiritual anchor. I confess that at the time I didn't remember where that would be, perhaps in Boreane when I arrived in the Iliac Bay, or in Cambria, or in Grimtree Garden where I met the caretaker, or my hostess's palace in Wayrest. I prayed that I had not set the anchor last when I was with you in Morrowind, for it said that if the distance is too great, one can be caught between dimensions. Still, I was willing to take that chance, rather than being the plaything of Baliasir. I cast the spell and found myself back on the doorstep of Lady Moorling's palace. To be out of the crypt and away from the Daedra was a relief, but I had so hoped that I had been smart enough to cast an anchor near a mage's guild or a temple where I could find a healer. Instead, knowing I was too weak to walk far, I beat on the door and was taken here, where I write this letter, lying in my bed. As I wrote those words, "Dear Elisbetta," Lady Moorling came in, quite tearfully and frantic, to tell me the healers should be here waiting but a few minutes. But I will be dead where they are. I know theses are my last words. Their friend, stay away from this cursed place. Your friend, Charwich.
We are blessed, truly blessed. Are you here to discuss your stronghold? Your stronghold is complete. You are the new Archmagister of House Telvanni.
You're looking for a ship. What's your destination?
Get out of here. You looking for a ship? What's your destination? Okay, settle down. Let's not have it come to that, okay? I hear you. Can we work this out? It's okay, really. I didn't mean it. You looking for a ship? What's your You're not the type I like to deal with. Get lost! It's a start. Go ahead. I don't think so, and your pushing me isn't going to change that. I don't think we've been introduced, Outlander. How can I help you? Surrender your life to me and I will end your pain! Great!
You can you.
I don't know you. What do you want? You're not so bad yourself. No one's told me that in so long. I'm sure I've got better things to... I already... That's very... Your word... I'm sure I've got better things to do. It's okay, really. I didn't mean it. I don't think so. And you're... It's okay, really. I didn't mean it. I am a witch. I have bound myself by oath and deed to the service of a Daedra lord, and in return have received gifts of knowledge and power. The temple calls my patrons the bad Daedra, and perhaps they aren't very nice. But I guess I'm not very nice either. If you are curious and not afraid, I can tell you a little about the bad Daedra and Daedric summonings. Why do you outlanders? I don't have time to waste on something. If I liked you better, then I might tell you. Go ahead, It's okay, really, I didn't mean it. I am a witch. I have bound... House Indoral and House Dress are the two of Morrowind's great houses that have no holdings on Vvardenfell. What are the most dangerous places in Morrowind? Well, probably the Ash Vampire Citadel. If all it takes is a little persuasion, a flask of Telvanni bug musk is what you need. Makes even an orc charming. Have you noticed? For all its proclamations about protecting the rights of property and preserving law and order, the Imperial Legion does little enough to capture and prosecute abolitionists. That's a bit hypocritical, don't you think? I am Sonumu Zabamat, wise woman of the Zainab. Speak with Ashkan Kaushad. I will meet with this Argonian only if the Ashkan speaks it.
So, you are the outland. Will this Argonian make the Telvanni deal with us fairly? Will this Argonian make the Empire give us better prices so that we can feed our people? Will this Argonian give us a place on the council? Will this Argonian kill the blighted creatures and the outlaws that plague out village? Then we have no time for this Argonian. None of our tribe would have done this thing. Oh, look, an outlander. Are you lost, poor thing? Did the big bad beasts bite you so you need a healer? Or do you need our trader so he can take your gold and give you things we would throw away or give to our guar? I'm very happy to make your acquaintance. What do you want? 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 What do you want?